What's up, George? Can you hear me?
Hey, brother.
Hey,
Yes,
brother.
I can hear you.
Awesome.
Look at you, blue
Yeah, I'm
sky.
hanging out at the beach, bike down a mile from my house, so it's a good place to do meetings.
Very, very cool.
Yeah, let me turn this thing on. Okay, there we go. So, how are you been?
I've been great, man. We had a had an event this past weekend. Tracy and I spoke at. It felt so good to be on stage again.
Yeah,
We were at
I
ATL
know you rocked
a month
out.
ago. It felt so good. It just feels so good to be in front of people again. It's
I know.
just
Yeah, it's like a cathartic thing. I don't know. It's powerful to have the energy and the interaction. And I mean, I'm fortunate. My job is a professor, so I get to do that. You know, a couple times a week. Well, many times, but it's
that's
very
awesome.
if that was. I love that aspect of it. I think it's powerful. It seems like those face-to-face meetings aren't as common, as they used to be. I don't know if that's true for you.
Well, I think it's true that it's less common, and at the same time, I feel like people are craving it. I don't think we ever stopped craving it. I think we got used to not doing it
Yeah,
with the pandemic and everything, and now people are. It appears people are less concerned about that, and so like this gathering we were at. Um, it was just people were hugging and everybody was just so happy to be in a room, and it just felt great,
yeah. It's like the ATL. I mean, experience. That was amazing.
totally.
Unbelievable.
And
I
you
mean,
get a room. Oh, sorry.
no, go ahead. You get a room.
Well, you get a room full of people who feel deeply,
Yeah,
which I'd like to say we all feel deeply. We don't all acknowledge it, but when you get a room full of people like ATL, for instance, where most of the people are good at feeling, like that exercise Tracy and I led was like a feeling exercise, and people went there. We want to go there,
I know. Look. That's the key to the future. Is that ability to tap into your true self, your lack of constraint and openness. And I get that at ATL, and it blows my mind. And then I don't really get it anywhere else. What I mean? I'm putting on stuff, trying to do things, but I don't know. It's just hard to go back into the real world where that's not how things are.
I think that's why like I'll say you and I, but I mean I think like people
Yeah.
like us, we're drawn to like the moment you and I met, we were talking about let's do something together. Let's say, like
Yeah.
there's this draw or attraction toward collaboration because it's almost like I mean, we're social creatures. We love to be together. We love to be with each other. Now, it doesn't always like it doesn't mean we love to be with everybody. You know what I mean? Like we could be in a room full of taxidermists or
Right.
accountants or something, and we might not feel the same way,
I know, I know. It takes a person that's willing to go there, that's
Yeah.
has enough, I think, trust in themselves, really. It's always about yourself. Trust in themselves to be able to trust their self that it's okay to be real. And
Yeah.
it's not like that most of the time. People have a front, they have a role, they have an image, and it's not real. And they project that most of the day.
And I think that's really wow, I felt something when you said that. Like they've when we invest in that
Yeah.
and have to hold it up, it's so exhausting.
Oh, no.
And it's sad, like it prevents connection. If you're pretending, like if you're holding to something together because you think you're supposed to, like, well, I'm
Yeah.
supposed to put this front, like I love that you use that word. I put up this front and I hold this image up, and then I start to believe that this image that I'm holding up is who I am. But then there's this part of me that just knows that that's not true. It's this, oh my gosh, it's so sad.
Yeah.
It's like this aching, longing to be authentic and to
Yeah.
be able to be around people with whom I can be authentic, you
Yes.
know?
Authenticity. That's it. I mean, it's just being real. You know, and I mean, I do that. But there's these 5 words I tell my kids every remind them. Oh, this is life. You do these 5 things, you win. I don't know if I've told you before, but it's fun, funny, cool, nice, happy, real. Fun, funny, cool, nice, happy, real. If you do those
Fun,
things,
funny, cool, nice, happy, real.
like have fun, and try to be funny if you have that ability. Um, cool, which is to be cool is to be like comfortable with yourself. That's all cool is.
Totally.
Cool is just like I don't care. I'll wear my whatever I want because I like it,
Because it
and
feels good, right?
it's okay if you don't. I don't. Doesn't bother me. But nice, self-explanatory. Be kind to your fellow human beings.
Kind,
Happy,
yeah.
like that happy, which is this. It's not just surface happy. It's like a joy for being alive. Like just you're alive, man. You're not a tree. You're this entity that has the ability to change the world, to interact, to do things that nothing else that we know in the universe can. And you're going to sit down and mope and complain because something's not going the way you want it to be. I mean, that's sad. So be
Yeah.
happy and then real. The last one, which is what we ended on, like authenticity. Be your true self, and as much as you, if you can, all the time, because that's a complete life if you can do those 5 things. So
Which were you first, a parent or a teacher?
I was. That's a great question because they were really close. I was a parent,
You're a
really
parent.
close, and then I had 2 kids, and I was like a lawyer, and just like, it's just stressful. And my ex-wife, and like, this is stressful. A lot of fun, stress. Go stressful work, come home stressful. It's just like, it's so hard. And then I got like, I can't. Something's got to change. So it was, What can I do with a JD and become a professor? Hit me, and I
I love
figured,
it. Like that's one thing we have in common, and we discovered very early that we had in common that we were both licensed to practice law. We were both educated as attorneys,
yeah,
and and like for me, I knew, and I'm curious about this if this is true for you. And I've worked with a lot of attorneys as an attorney, obviously, but also as a coach. But I knew really, like, I think even before I went to law school, that practicing law, although I was good at it and enjoyed it to a certain degree, I knew that practicing law wasn't my path. That wasn't why I was on this planet, you know?
yeah,
And I practiced because I got out of law school. I was a dad.
yeah,
I had a baby. I was
yeah.
like, my law jobs were right there. I was like, well, of course I'm going to go practice law because I need to pay my bills.
Exactly, exactly. That's how it works. I mean, it pays well.
Yeah.
But yeah, and then and I mean, you were more like, I mean, honestly, I was just when I was a kid, just nothing. You know what I mean? Just like didn't get anything. I was in the South, and people were like, "You're smart. You can read, you can write well, speak well. You should go to law school." And kind of got pressured socially to do that. And I didn't. I was the first person in my family to graduate from college. I didn't have any real guidance, and I just went okay, and just kind of did it without thinking,
Right.
and got through the process, started practicing, and that's when it hit me after a couple of years, like, this is crazy, man. Like, what am I doing? And then
Yeah.
figured out that you can have an passion, you can be passionate and enjoy what you do with your life. Um, and then even then, I wasn't like on the spiritual path. I didn't figure that out until later, much later when stress hit me and I was just so just down and like, why am I always upset? What is this? Why? I don't want to feel like this. And I had to
Totally.
figure it out. And it's a journey. It takes years to figure stuff out.
Yeah. I
It's
mean,
not.
I wasn't even going through that process of I got to do something else besides practicing law because this isn't fulfilling, it doesn't fill the whole picture in. And and I knew I had been speaking a little bit since college and knew that it had to do with personal development. But even then, my personal development journey wasn't really a spiritual journey as much until later on too. I think I used to say we learn what we learn until we learn it, right? And so we
Yeah,
were I was going through like adding dimensions to my life as I gathered them, and I wasn't really even ready for the spiritual path until I was ready, until I had really gone through even my first marriage and then
Yeah.
single fatherhood and then like all of the hardships and the challenges that came with single fatherhood and doing that on my own and navigating family and everything went
Yeah.
until my heart
Same
really
story.
started opening up.
Same
Huh?
story.
Yeah.
And I tell you, the first person that really kind of opened my eyes was like Wayne Dyer. I don't know
Oh,
what
Wayne,
Wayne Dyer, man. That guy, come
so
on.
good, man.
And my favorite quote of his is, "The smartest person is the one who is happy." Oh, no, I'm sorry, that the smartest person is the one who is happiest. Like, you know what I mean? The smartest person in any room
Right.
is the one who's happiest because they figured out
Yeah.
what life is. This is a joyous
Yeah.
event. It's not this drudgery and complexity. And like, and so if someone's so smart, why aren't you happy? That's the first thing to
Yeah,
ask.
exactly. So a dear friend of mine introduced me to Wayne when was it? 1920? Shoot.
1920.
No, 20. It was
Dang, dude.
I actually get to say I'm old enough to say I met somebody in 19 something. It was 1990 something or 20 something. It was the first 10 years of 2000s. Anyway, I don't remember exactly when it was, I could tell you, but for me, I was like he was so brilliant. He was
Yeah.
such a funny speaker and engaging and so wise. And I hadn't he wasn't really top of mind. This was just recently over the weekend, and I thought, who said don't die with your music in you? And I Googled it and it came up Wayne Dyer. I was like, awesome. It's like
Yeah.
so good.
Man, he's a rock star. Just to and to do that too, he did it from a psychological perspective, which is like kind of my thing is I try to do science. I try to
To
do
bring the science, make it credible, absolutely.
because I don't know, it just makes it more palatable. And in my profession, they won't. I'm not permitted. It won't fly if I'm not digging into
Yeah.
the science and the
Evidence-based and
philosophy.
well, and I don't know that that's a bad thing. Like I know we travel in some pretty woo circles, right?
Yeah, yeah,
And that's all fine too. But there's something about I love being able to say to let I want to say skeptic. I don't really think
yeah,
they're skeptics, but I love being able to say to a skeptic, there's research to support this. There's
yeah,
research to support that when you do something to lift your attitude in the morning, that it actually helps your biology. Actually helps your
yeah,
nervous system, helps your immune system, it helps your digestion. I love being able to say that there's scientific evidence to support that.
yeah. It's
And the thing is, you say that to a yogi, and they're like, I don't need scientific evidence. We've known that for 5,000 years.
exactly. I mean, that's the thing that blows my mind. It's like with Plato, which is where I kind of go to. He
Uh-huh.
figured this about 2,500 years ago, and it matches up with modern science, modern
Of course
psychology.
it does.
Like, that's insane. Like, can't you see this? Like, do you understand what that means? It means human nature hasn't changed. We're all the same. And you can research throughout history to find out the path to follow. It's all the same thing in just different words because the age and the point in space and time that it was said. That's all it is. It's all the same message, just spoken differently.
Totally, which is why I say, like, the scientists of today who are doing this research in psychology and biochemistry and biohacking and all of these different things, they're they're the equivalent of the mystics of 3,000 years ago. They're the Platos and Aristotles and the Confucius and the Buddhas and
Yeah,
they're
I know. And people so cling to science. I'm like, the science I learned is different now than it was in high school when I learned it. What I learned isn't true anymore. So it's just everything evolves and changes, and we're getting, it's always evolved. So you can't hold on to something and think, oh, this is how it is. It's you don't know what you don't know. It's always going to keep changing. There's
yeah.
underlying aspect of reality. So
I
it's
love that you said we don't know what we don't know. There's a great line. Do you remember the movie Men in Black with Will Smith and Tommy Lee Jones. There's this one scene where it's the end of a long day and Will Smith is sort of blown away that he's seen all of the things he's seen that day, and Tommy Lee Jones, it's like that's his job, right? So he sits him down and he says, this morning when you woke up, you knew we were alone in the universe. You knew that life was only existed on Earth. You knew, etc. He says, and after today, imagine what you'll know tomorrow. And it's like, boom, such a great line.
I might use that. That's
Yeah.
amazing. But that's the thing, is like people get attached anything or whatever. I mean, you attach these beliefs or these fears or whatever, and it stops you from truly experiencing reality as it is. And that's what everyone does. And they identify with stuff, and it's just, it clogs up the purity, the authenticity of who you really are. And when, that's why there's no, when you did that ATL work, there's no clogs, there's no, people are crying open. There's no blockage like everyone has in their normal everyday experience. It's not there. And that's why it's so powerful.
Mm. Yeah, it's true. The blockage, I love that. And because the blockage is like all this conditioning gook that gets in our nervous system, and like it clogs up the plumbing. Like like I remember another one of my, like I call him a mentor. We only worked together very, very briefly at the early days of the internet. We were part of a team that created the first online coaching platform called thecoachingstaff.com. And I don't even know if it exists anymore. But Dennis Waitley was one of my favorites. He's just a beautiful speaker, and he taught this idea that our perception of ourselves, like that, how we feel about who we are as individuals, has like four components. And he used to say the first one was identity, the second one was belonging, the third one was control and competency, and the fourth one was worthiness. And I taught that, quoting Dennis Waitley, for like the first 10 years of my speaking career. I used that as one of the core foundations of what I taught. And I remember that idea of identity and what we attach to, like the it feels like the smarter we get, the less meaningful that is. Like the what we attach to, like this is who I am. This, I have to present this picture or else I don't know who I am. And if we over attach to that, it's like we exhaust ourselves trying to hold up that image. And I mean, obviously, we have to have maybe some sense of identity because it keeps us inspired. Like I used to say, you are what you do something about every day. So like, there's a certain sense of identity there. Like, yeah, this is who I am. I'm a father. I'm a husband. I'm a lover. I'm a philosopher. I'm a friend. I'm a speaker. All this stuff. And I think there's a certain healthy sense of attachment to that. But at the same time, it's that, like we said at the beginning of the call, like if you're so attached, it gums up the works, it gooks up the plumbing.
Yeah, it does, because you are identifying. I mean, that's why Eckhart Tolle gave three things. He says the key to life are three things: non-judgment, non-attachment, and non-resistance. That's it. Like,
Oh,
those are hard to do, but I've always remembered
non-judgment, non-attachment, non-resistance. That's good.
everything. It's everything. And like, there's stories that go with those, but that's it. Like, if you can do those things, you are being authentic, and life is a different experience. And
Do
it's
you
hard.
remember, do you remember like the first time you got non-attachment?
Mm. I got my attachment. Yeah. I mean, it was like around the time I wrote my book, because that's when I was just going, I'd been studying spirituality and doing a lot in that direction, and been divorced from my ex-wife, who is a pretty mean person, and, makes life hard every day. Um, and I was just having all these stresses about my kids. And I was just like, that's when I was just spinning and sick of it. I got sick of feeling down and not
Mm.
being mentally strong and unhealthy. And the first thing I did was, I mean, I knew all that. I'd already read Tolle and all the other stuff, Wayne Dyer. but I went to Stoicism. Is kind of the first philosophical path I went to, and the whole thing. Stoicism can be summed up easily. It's most simple in one sentence: like focus on what you can control and let go of what you can't. And you know
Right.
what? You can't control anything other than and this is what people don't get. You can't actually control your thoughts. You can control your emotions. You can control your actions, obviously. But people don't get it. They have thoughts running in their head all the time. I can't. But you can control this stuff. And that's all you can control. So if you're going to worry about stuff you can't control, you're highly unintelligent because you have no control over it. You know what I mean? It's like you can't
Well,
waste your energy.
you're wasting so much energy, and that's the thing. Like even that idea, I used to say, I used to teach when I taught this. My trademark program was Life by Design, and I taught that this idea of control and competency, like you have to be good at something that it because that's an important part of feeling good about yourself. But this idea of control, the Stoics talked about, yeah, control what you can control and let go of what you can't. Even control, this idea of control, it's almost also a fallacy or a fiction that we
Yeah.
make up so that we don't drive ourselves crazy when we realize we don't have control. Like
Yeah.
there's really not, like, even our thoughts, we can't necessarily control our thoughts in the first instance. We can
Yeah.
control our thoughts after a fashion, after a second or two, but
Right.
you can't control, like,
Definitely.
without deep meditation, you can't control a thought crosses your mind. It's like, oh, a thought crosses my mind. That's interesting. What you do with it, you can control,
Yeah.
you
Yeah.
know?
Yes, that's true. And it's a powerful realization, that it's all an inside game. There's two sides to everything, an inside and outside. And that's it. And the inside's the important part because that's what you got some control over. And if you're focused therein, which is Plato's whole deal, getting out of the cave, it's a self-realization. It's self-realization, it's all about yourself because if you work on yourself and self-development, you're the only thing that's in every experience you have in life. The only thing that's there all the time is you. You encounter people, you encounter events. You're the only thing that comes to every one of those things. Doesn't it make sense to work on this because it'll change your relationship to everything else in the entire world? That's the
You know,
key.
it so is. And I remember I had never really grasped that concept. And even after my first divorce, and then I dove right into a big relationship after my divorce. And that didn't work out. And then I dove into another one and that didn't work out. And after like four big relationships while I was divorced, I was learning and my self-development path and my spiritual path began to evolve. It was after four relationships I went deep back into therapy. I worked with this brilliant therapist, just a superb human being.
Uh,
Josh was his name, and Josh and I would sit and he'd say, "This is what I want you to do. I want you to be a frog on a log." I was like, "What do you mean by that?" He says, "I want you to sit. The frog sits on a log, rolling down the river. The frog doesn't think, 'Oh, I hope this happens.' The frog doesn't think, 'Oh, I hope that happens.' The frog just says, 'Oh, this is happening,' or 'Oh, this is happening.'" And what I really began to realize was all of these relationships that I had put so much into and attached and sort of uh, um, wanted to make something of, right? Of,
yeah.
of all of those things that didn't work out, I was the common denominator. Like, oh, and as hard as it was, it's like, oh, I'm the only one I can do the work on, right?
Yeah.
And it's like, and so actually it was a very freeing moment to be able to let go of
Yeah.
trying to control all of these other factors. It's like, no, the only one I really need to worry about. I mean, obviously as a parent and a business and all that, but the only one I really need to work on controlling is how I see things and how I react to them. And
Absolutely.
man, that was like a birthday. That was like I was reborn when
Wow.
that,
It's
and then
awesome.
then it was a very stoic principle. I think Seneca and Aristotle and those guys would have liked Frog on a Log.
Yeah, man, that's great. I've never heard that, but it's fantastic.
Thank you, Joshua Altshul. God bless you. Thank you.
Amen. Amen. And so, but see, that's what I think is so awesome is that a moment in time can change the rest of your life. A moment, hearing one thing and truly letting it get in through all the defenses and all the beliefs and through your true self. Once you allow that to resonate, if it's possible that it can change the trajectory of your entire life, as you just attested to. I mean, that's powerful. But that's what, and that's what I try. That's what my goal is in these classes I'm teaching. I'm trying to reach these kids, and I mean, it worked. It wouldn't work on everybody, but it works on a good bit, and that's pretty awesome. It's
I
powerful.
mean, come on. That's the kind of stuff they remember you for. Like and if you get that through, like you're teaching ethics, right?
Yeah, yeah.
You're
How
the
you choose
ethics
to live
dude.
your life. That's what it means. How you choose to live your life. That's what ethics is, man.
And if they get one idea like, oh, if I if I create this rule for how I live my life and
Yeah,
I actually live by that rule, I will achieve a certain amount. There will be a certain amount of peace in that, right? That's a life principle,
yeah,
you
yeah.
know?
These kids are 18, 19, 20, young. They got a long way to go. So
Oh,
the,
there you
the
go.
carrying forward is powerful. It's a lot of time. A lot of things can happen. So it's exciting. But I mean, I've talked to you much about it, but like my administration and my departments, they're so bad. We're to say they just stifle it. They don't want it to be taught, and they don't allow me to. So that's why I'm really like partnering with Cynthia, you whoever. Like I'm just what I have to share, what I've learned is just too valuable to not to just keep it contained. It's life changing if you really get it, and so I'm just really, really this year put my intention down to spread out, do a podcast, do all these things, and just get the message out there because
Yeah.
we're at a really critical time, place in space and time right now, really critical point. I think I told you call it the consciousness renaissance. It's just like there was a renaissance that happened and it transformed society from the dark ages. Well, guess what? We have the ability to re-enter a renaissance, and we have to
100%.
be the ones to do it, to lead it, to show, because it's necessary. And if we don't, it's not heading in the right direction, and you can't
Well,
sit.
there's have it's so clear. It seems to be so clear. And at least the people you and
Yeah,
I talked to, it seems to be very clear that there are forces. I don't want to make too big a deal,
yeah,
but there are people who definitely seem like they want to keep or drive
yeah,
us into a dark ages.
yeah, yeah.
You know what I mean?
Absolutely.
Like they don't want to talk about the enlightenment at all. It's
What's hard to me is that our economic systems are vitally important. That's how we operate within a system. Systems, that's all true. What's true is that we live in a universe of systems, from ourselves to the solar system to it's all systems, all turtles all the way down. And the economic system we're in values the wrong thing. It values, shareholder wealth. And that you've got to have a higher priority than that, human well-being. Like that's got to be your top priority. Otherwise, things it's like cancer. You can collect all the money you want, just hold it for yourself. The circulatory system doesn't work like that. No system's going to work like that, and we're trapped in this
well,
system.
completely. And I think it was Buckminster Fuller who
Yeah,
said something to the effect that there is enough wealth to
yeah,
ensure the well-being of everyone. So if we make that, and it's not like it's really, really not. It's obvious to me
yeah,
that it's really not a mutually exclusive premise that there's enough wealth to create well-being for everyone and still create enormous wealth for the creators of wealth.
yeah,
Like I don't I could because I think any new system that we were to propose now, if it flies in the face of the creators of
Yeah.
wealth creating more wealth for themselves, they won't do it. Why? Where's the incentive? If I have a
Right.
brilliant idea, but it won't enhance my life at all by sharing the idea, I'll share it. I mean, it's the law of self-preservation. We're not going to share it. But if we get enough people to believe what Buckminster Fuller said was right, and I do believe it was accurate, there is enough wealth to create well-being for everyone and still create more wealth for the wealth creators. Like if I'm a billionaire and I remember, oh, a lot of people contribute to the creation of this wealth. If I share a little bit of this wealth with the creators of it with me, and everybody in my system is well and well off, then they will continue to partner
Yeah.
with me in creating more wealth. That
Yeah.
to me just makes sense.
Yeah. But you know what people say, communism and socialism, and those are the first thing that pops in their head. And I'm telling you, I'm in a business school, so it's indoctrination, the education they receive. I'm like the lone voice, lone wolf out there howling, like, man, come on, you got to see things. There's a different way to look at things. But every class, every educational thing they hear is selfish money, selfish money, selfish money, and it's and they come into my class, and that's where they're pre-positioned. So to get work through that is the just to get through that and to get to the other side is a process.
I wonder if I do, and I think like if the let's say the capitalist doctrine or whatever has at its center the maximization of profit for shareholders,
Yeah,
then the way to address that is simply to make all people within a system, every employee in a line, for instance, every person involved in the creation of a product or service, to make them stakeholders
yeah.
solves that problem. Say,
Make
okay,
them not stakeholders, make them shareholders. Like
that's what I mean.
I
Make
know,
them
yeah,
shareholders so that when you do a dividend,
yeah.
everybody benefits.
That's
That
right.
makes
That's the
total
way.
sense.
That makes a lot of sense. And no idea is like any one person. Like that's the thing. Is like ideas. They're not that you stand on the shoulders of giants. I mean, and not only that, ideas come from some other dimension or realm. It's not. You know,
Yeah, exactly.
when you look at patent law, for instance, the same idea percolates at different places around the globe at the same point in time. Like, what's that about? Like,
Yes.
open your eyes. It's not. It's something being given. It's being given to us. It's coming from a higher source, and that's the. Once you realize that, how could you think that, oh, I'm this awesome human being? I did all. You know what I mean? The selfishness goes away because you realize you're just receiving. It's a gift, and you're able to share it. Like it's a perspective change, and that's why higher levels of consciousness, you're not selfish, and you want to serve.
Well, they even in I think it's the Tom Shadyac made a movie. Tom Shadyac was the
Yes.
producer of the
I know.
yeah
I've seen it.
of the Jim Carrey movies called I Am.
Yes.
And he explores consciousness and this idea of oneness and interconnectivity in this movie I Am. And he talks about the native tribes of the Americas and how they had a philosophy that if someone exhibited selfish behaviors, they treated that as a mental illness.
Mm,
And they would circle around this individual and be like, what's up? You're acting in your self-interest to the detriment of the tribe. That's out of balance. That's out of harmony with the natural law. So we need
right.
to explore this together because we can't tolerate that, you know?
That's awesome.
And what it's funny, my son took me this weekend disc golfing. I had
Oh
never done it
yes,
before.
I've done that. That's fun.
Oh my God. Well, first of
It's,
all, so much fun. It was so much fun.
it's basically like hiking with the sport, and hanging out in the interim.
That's exactly what my son said. So
Oh
I was
really?
talking about how Mark Twain had said golfing was a long walk spoiled. That's what Mark Twain said. And what disc golf is a hike gamified.
Right, exactly. It's perfect.
And we had so much fun. And
Yeah.
at one point we were up in the Adirondack, we're up here in the
Oh,
Adirondack Mountains. We were in the mountains and we were in the woods, right? And we got to this one section of the forest and it was clearly a grove of aspens. And aspens, what we know about aspens now that we didn't know before is they are when you come to a grove of aspens and you might see 100 trees, they're actually all one organism.
wow.
They're all popping up from an organism underground like mushrooms do, right?
Yes.
In fact, the largest living organism on the planet in terms of mass is called the pando, and it's a grove of aspen trees in Colorado. It's hundreds and hundreds of acres of one organism.
That's amazing. I love it.
And what it teaches us is that, one tree and another tree a half a mile away are actually connected. Their well-beings are
Yes.
interdependent. And
That's
that
a
is such a
lesson in life.
model for us.
Absolutely. That's it. That's all. That's the top level of spirituality. I teach 7 levels of this self development, and the lowest level is fear, separation, division. That's the bottom, and the
Yeah,
top is unity, interconnectedness. That's the realization that we are all one. That it's not. Am I my brother's keeper? It's like I am my brother. Like we
my
are the
brother.
same. And
Exactly.
once you realize that, that's why the golden rule is, like, to me, the most succinct explanation of ethics, because how would you treat yourself? You know what I mean? And some people treat themselves badly. That's why you got to have self-love and self-care on the first to start with. Put the oxygen mask on yourself first before you help anyone else. And then how are you going to treat yourself? Like, why would you treat yourself the way you're treating people? Like, it doesn't make any sense. We're all the
Well,
same.
that's why when you know, like on a cell, when you really get that my brother and I are one, when you
Yeah.
really get that, you can't harm your brother. You
Right.
can't you can't wage war against him
Yeah.
because you're waging war against yourself. Like
Absolutely.
this is why I think this idea, this is where I know we got to be careful about this because I do respect people's journey
Yeah.
and I respect people's seeking, but this idea of organized religion has really, by creating the perception of separation,
Yes.
God and you are separate.
Yeah.
We create, and I know that's controversial for a lot of people. That's really hard to get their arms around. And by doing that, we create division.
Yeah.
Look what's happening in the United States right now.
Yeah.
There's the dialogue or the
Unbelievable.
dialectic is creating division. And, I remember in the old days, even as partisan as politics were,
Yeah.
there was a conversation about
Yeah.
unity.
Absolutely. And like it's gone. And I mean, whoops, sorry, something happened here.
Oh,
Um,
you're doing okay.
there
I
you go.
love the palm trees, man. The palm trees are just great.
But
So
it's just
good.
like, yeah, but the way things are now, I can't. It just hurts so much to look at the state of just our country and to see. I just, I don't. I'm speechless. Truly, it's just speechless. I can't even say anything about how horrific, how horrific this person can be and be supported by 48% at least of the population, and the religious fundamentalists who, if they truly embodied or cared about what they were taught and really sought to practice what Jesus taught, this is the absolute antithesis to the billionth degree of what they've learned. But somehow, this is what they're. It just nothing makes any sense. I don't
Well, I
know.
think yeah, there's a certain, well, it's a pathos. There's a pathos. There's something unhealthy that clearly, like, we haven't even, we're just scratching the surface with this is why Tracy and I are so passionate about elevating the frequency of the conversations, because the conversation, if the pathos can't be healed until the conversation is elevated. Like we're that's why I'm so passionate about oratory, like
Yeah,
making oratory meaningful again. Like with our founding fathers, we they had plenty of problems, right? They owned slaves, they lots of misguided stuff, and yet at the same time, at the core, they had noble aspirations.
yeah,
They studied, they were tapped into the French philosophies, and which is where democracy came from, which came from the Greeks. You know what I
yeah.
mean? Like they were tapped into some really noble. At the end of the day, of course, we're
Ideas.
still human. We do stupid things. Slavery, what? Where did that come from, right? But that's the dark side of human nature. At the
Yeah,
same time of human nature, we have this beautiful aspiration, and this idea of elevating oratory and elevating the conversation to such a frequency that even if you disagree with it, you're willing to participate in it. Even if you don't understand it, you're willing to explore it. Even if you don't totally resonate with it, you're willing to try it on and see if it fits. That's what good oratory can do. It can inspire people to do that. Like try it.
yeah,
Don't take my word for it, but don't automatically disagree with it just because it's different. Try it out. See if it
right.
works for you and your family. Because at the end of the day, we're all trying to feed our family. We're all trying to keep
Yeah,
ourselves safe, you
yeah,
know?
yeah. We're all searching for the same thing. It's just that we attach to these beliefs that we have in our head and it fundamentally alters how we interact with the world. And, and that's why, you know, Plato, or no, Socrates said, I know that I know nothing. I mean, that guy, come on, he knows that that guy knows that he knows nothing. Come on, come
Yeah,
on.
that guy. I
He
know.
said that. That guy was genius. I mean, that just should help you to realize, like, all these things we attach to, it's just garbage. You just kind of experience life and you head toward the good, the true, the beautiful. I mean, I talk about the transcendentals, and that's what you try to manifest. Like, just try to put that into practice in the world and see how things work out. Give it a shot, because
The
it's a
good,
lot
the
better
true,
than
and the
division and
beautiful.
hatred. That's the three transcendentals, of Greek philosophy, really, that Plato says is the nature of reality, the nature of you. That at your core, if you can get to who and know thyself, that's it.
Yeah.
That's the instructions. Maharishi, who am I? He asked that over and over to reach enlightenment. It's the exact it's the exact same thing. It's just Greek, who know
And
thyself.
and Shakespeare, to thine own self be true, like that. Okay, stop. If that was the only sentence he ever wrote,
Yeah.
stop with that. Sit with that. That's a lifetime right there. To thine own self be true. What?
Yes, I know. And people, they don't want to think deeply. I mean, I did that Enneagram thing, and I'm a thinker. I'm like number 5, I think it was. So I'm
Uh,
thinking deep on all this stuff. But it's just, I think too deep. I don't know. You can't really think too deep, but I just see so much surface level lack of depth, and people just skimming around, like, just this is being thrown around, reacting to everything in life. And it's like, that's no way to live. You're not.
well, so you raise a great question, and I don't know. I'm mindful. We have 15 more minutes. Here's the thing.
We can go
When,
longer if you want, but go
Abraham
ahead.
Maslow, pardon?
We said we can go longer if you want. It's up to
Oh
you.
yeah, I'm pretty tight
Yeah.
today, but um, Maslow said, we have this pyramid, right? This
Yeah.
this scale of from survival to
I can.
self-actualization, and and it is true that it does feel true, I should say, that if we're worried about our next meal, we're not focused on, am I really self-actualized? Am I being my highest self? Am I serving my highest purpose? If we're starving, we aren't really thinking about that.
Yeah.
If we're worried about where I'm going to sleep at night, this is why the being without a home, for instance, humans experiencing homelessness is like, that's a real challenge. If all you're worried about is, I have to find a dry place to sleep or a warm place to sleep, that's all you're focusing on. is that next meal or that next dry place to sleep. So like we can't possibly get the best of that person if that person's
Yeah.
in that situation, you know? But then this idea of these aspirations, these noble aspirations, the true, the beautiful, and the what did you say?
Good,
How,
good,
the
true,
good. That, you know, if you're starving, how important is the good, the true, and the beautiful going to be to you, you know? If
right.
or if your child is suffering, how important is the good, the true, the beautiful? It's really so this idea of again back to Buckminster Fuller, there's enough wealth to create
Yeah,
well-being for everyone. And I think that's in the best interest of everyone.
yeah.
And that might be a socialist principle. I don't think so. It might be a communist principle. I doubt it. I think it's really a humanist principle,
Exactly.
you know. And
If
it
I have
doesn't,
my brother,
if you have $100 billion or $10 billion
or a
and
billion,
you or a billion, right? And you shared a fraction of that with the people who helped create it with you,
yeah,
you're are you suddenly not going to have enough?
right. Yeah, not at all. It's just an
Think it's an
insane,
insane
it's insane,
proposition to suggest that.
and
That yeah.
that's the if joy and happiness and peace are what you truly seek in life, money, additional wealth is not what brings it to you. Study after study proves this.
Study
It
after study. Didn't they say like there's like at
75 grand.
100,000 or 150,000
Yeah,
beyond that, you're not any happier. I mean,
yeah,
I'm sure enjoy life perfectly well, but you're not any happier.
right. And it's
That's
like you
fascinating.
kind of realize what you truly, and I ask in my class, I just ask my students like in the first day, why are you sitting here? Why are you sitting in my class? And they'll say, oh, I fit my schedule so I can get a degree. Well, why do you want a degree? So I can get a job. Why do you want a job? So I can make money. Why do you want money? So I can support myself and family. Well, why do you want to do that? So I can be happy. And eventually, if you trace the why, keep asking the why, you get to this. People just want to be okay and happy in life, and that's why you take any action you take ultimately. And if that's the case, then really truly figure out what that means, and then aim for it. Because doing pursuing money at all costs is not the answer to happiness, and it's not what you really said you wanted. So it's a, But since we only have so much time, I just say how could we collaborate? I have some ideas about I'd love to speak sometime, do some state stuff with you. But like I have that retreat up in Yosemite, and we could put on a retreat up there. We could
Yes.
have a ton of people. It's not like it can hold a ton, but
You don't
whatever.
need a ton.
Yeah, it would
You
make a
know, how
difference.
many people can it hold? 20?
Yeah, like 12. So it's
12?
not like a ton. And we could
Okay.
add more. We could do more with some
No, but
bees and stuff.
12. So we start with
But
12.
and I mean, that would be a good event. I mean, that would change people's lives. It'd be fun. It'd be like 3 days up in the Yosemite. We could go to Yosemite for half a day or a day if we wanted. I mean, it's just and we got the facilities. It's just a matter of showing up
I,
and blowing up.
Wade, I'm just going to need some time to think about it. Yes.
Yeah. Well, okay, perfect. So then let's start planning
Pick a
something and
date. Yes.
because
100%.
we both talk all the time. It's not like there's difficult. It's just sharing these things we've learned and integrating them, and like it'd be fun to put something together on
I'm
that
I'm
cause.
absolutely yes. It's like let's literally next step, let's pick a date and then work toward that.
Okay, I'm
And
down.
then what's it going to be? How much are we going to charge? Where
Yeah,
how are we going to feed it, you know? And
yeah,
absolutely yes.
awesome. Well, that's great because that's the one thing now that we have that place, that's something I can actually use it for. That's the intention, it's short-term rentals now, but then to convert it to retreats. That's the point, and
And you
well-being.
got a fire pit, right?
Yeah, fire pits around.
Does it snow up there?
Yeah, oh yeah, we went sledding in the backyard. It was awesome.
So if we did it in the winter, we just have to make sure everybody could get up there and all that.
I know, but it doesn't. It's not impassable. It's a Wani, so it's a little outside, 30 minutes outside the gate. But it's elevated. It does snow sometimes, but we could pick a whatever date you wanted and put something together. And I mean, surely we can get 12 people who want to come and learn
I'm a
some
yes.
enlightening material. I mean, and then we could work on the message. How we wanted to integrate the things we teach,
Yeah.
and I think it'd be a lot of fun.
I'm so down. Let's so the this let me just well, hold on. Let's end this. I'm going to stop the recording. I think this has been a great first conversation. We'll do more of this, and
Yeah,
you'll hear more from Wade and I about a possible event together. And whatever this is called, whatever this turns out to be, hopefully we'll get to do more of it. So I'm just going to stop the recording now. And
perfect.
okay.